Next is going to be Ginny with Conduit, and she's going to go over Conduit's famous scorecard. Please welcome Ginny Lauren.
I can't think of anyone who would be better at Robert's Rule of Orders than Sarah and Jennifer. They're amazing. It's so good to be in a room full of all of you patriots. America first. This is what it is all about. And Sarah was also very strict about is my mic on? Okay. 10 and under. So I'm going to start my clock. Before I get started, I just want to say thank you to all of the 3 districts that are here today. There are a lot of us here from the 3rd district. Stand with me. Thank you for all that you do. My name is Ginny Lauren, and I'm with Conduit. And before I get into our scorecard, just a quick raise of hands. How many of you are familiar with Conduit and what we do? Okay, I like it. Nice. Okay, what about if this is your first time hearing about Conduit? That's okay too. I want you, before I begin, to take out your phone and text the word join. And Skip, if you can go to that first slide. It's going to have that number on it, and it is 501-292-2683. And from there, we will send you all of our news alerts. If it's during the session, you will get news alerts constantly about legislation, our weekly scorecard, bills that we're following, but you'll also continue out of session, get our information. All right, so briefly, I just want to say, okay, why are we here? All of us are here. We have a lot going on in the summertime. It's the middle of summer, but we are all here because we care about preserving our liberty and freedoms. And especially during the pandemic, we saw our government reach down and try to rip that away from us. But I want to share this point with you, something that I want you to think about. It's a quote. It says, freedom is inherent to humans. It exists within them by virtue of their humanity, and we know where that comes from. But liberty is a political construct that allows people to enjoy freedoms such as property rights, free speech, freedom of association, etc. But sadly, liberty is not the natural state of mankind. So then that leaves us, okay, what's the problem? What do we have to do here? Many of us have assumed that liberty is a natural state of us here in this country, specifically here in Arkansas. Today, we see otherwise, and that is where Conduit comes into play. Conduit was founded by 2 Arkansas small business owners, Joe Maynard. He is an aerospace and commercial manufacturer. Brenda Vassar-Taylor, she's a tax attorney. They started this a little over 10 years ago, and they were driven by the goal specifically to reduce the size of government. And they realized if they did that, that will directly impact and increase personal property and prosperity for all of you Arkansans. And as they started into the first few years, they realized, okay, what is the most effective means and the most effective way that we can do this? And they realized it's to elect and unelect your legislators at the state, Senate, and the House of Representatives level. And so that is where we focus most. And we're made up of 4 different nonprofits. They all operate very differently, and I want to say legally, to do different things, basically to inform and educate you people, and then to get out and vote, and to really know what your legislators are doing. Our mission is to increase personal freedoms. And you know, we often hear a lot, oh, it's the economy, stupid. It's not the economy. It's not economic development. We're hearing that a lot right now. It's nice. Or even producing more jobs, or it's not even about economic opportunity or prosperity for all. That is not what it is about. It is simply about pure economic freedom. Hayek said it best when he said, you cannot have economic freedom without political freedom. But you cannot have political freedom without economic freedom. And to break that down, we say this all the time at Conduit, social issues matter. They matter. We have to push back. I have 2 girls in the school system right now. I founded Moms for Liberty, the first chapter here in Arkansas. We have to get involved in social issues here. But at the end of the day, if the government has all of your money, you have no social freedom. They have the control. And so our goal at Conduit is to immediately shrink the size of government, take away their power, and give more power back to you when you rightfully own it. A lot goes on. It is so hard to keep up with everything, and especially towards the end of the session, they move so quickly. So this is what we do at Conduit. We keep up with things so you can stay informed. We We produce a weekly analysis of all bills. We publish them, we tell you whether we oppose it or we support it, and we tell you why. It's based on our economic freedom filter. I'll break that down in just 1 second when I show you the scorecard. We also follow all of the activity in the committee meetings as well as the votes on the floor. I'm going to talk about this in a second, but the committee meetings and those votes, we really want to see our legislators push to have recorded votes in the next session. That has got to happen. We cannot have transparency and accountability in our government if we do not know how they vote. All right, and so that's what we do. I'm going to tell you about the economic freedom filter very quickly. As you've probably picked up on, we are all about money and how much money the government has. And so we look at every single bill that is filed, and we score it based on 4 things. 1, does it increase or decrease the size of government? Does it increase or decrease the dependency on government? Does it spend money that we don't have? Does it increase or decrease transparency in government? And so if legislation, any piece of legislation falls into these categories, we score it and we show you your legislator's vote. So a brief summary over this past legislative session. Very similar to what we saw in 2021. A lot of social issues were at the forefront, and that's great. We believe that that has to happen. We have to push back. Especially Brenda and Joe were talking about, and they said that they send their love, but this is their 10th year in publishing their scorecard. And it was a bit different than year when we were breaking things down. They said, Brenda specifically talked about this, and Skip will go to, I don't know what slide I'm on, but they said we're using the alphabet to describe the indescribable. We're using trans everything to eliminate absolutes. We speak old words with new meanings. We define truth as repeated choruses rather than provable facts, and we silence and demonize dissenters. And so what we discovered is we can no longer, and we've known this, we can no longer pay attention to what culture says. We have to stick to our principles, and what are those? That's according to our economic freedom filter, and that is how we score these bills. 2 big wins that I'll briefly talk about over the legislative session. Of course, the LEARNS Act. We don't love everything in the LEARNS Act. We don't love how the financial part of it, some of the money, how it's going to be distributed, what is that going to look like? We know that there's a lot of questions there, but overall, we will always choose school choice and education freedom because we know from there that goes into economic freedom and better prosperity for all of our Kansans. So the LEARNS Act is a really good bill and a great step forward. And our goal and what our mission should be moving forward is how do we continue to have the LEARNS Act implemented and stay implemented since it's over a course of 3 years. Another really good bill was a special election reform. That's Act 300. That was sponsored by Representative David Ray. He's wonderful. And he also leans into those tax cuts. We had a small good tax cut. Again, though, we are still behind with our surrounding states. So we've got some work to do there. Let's talk about our winners quickly. We've got Senate. So we look at how everyone scores according to their votes from the 40 bills that we pull regarding economic activity for those bills. And then we score it and we see where those legislators fall. These are your top senators. We've got Jim Johnson, Northwest Arkansas, Matt McKee, he's a freshman, Clint Penzo, Mark Johnson, Senator Payton, and Senator Sullivan. Raise your hand if any of these are your senators. Nice. They did a really good job. Let's look at the House. We have, I believe, 16 of our House of Representatives, those legislators winning, and it was really encouraging to see a number of freshman reps in this list. You have Representative Duke, she's a freshman, Representative McClendon, Representative Purrier. So it was really good to see them make waves and stand up and vote the way that we as conservatives want them to vote. So a little bit about how we choose these winners. Everything, that back table to the far right corner, I have copies of our brand new scorecard. Literally got them from, he's back there holding them up right now. Please come get one. You will see how every legislator voted on every single bill according to our economic freedom filter. And that's what's really interesting about the scorecard. We hear this a lot. People are like, I had no idea that he voted that way. But he says all of the right things. He does. But that's why we produce a scorecard. Because it's not about their rhetoric, it's not about their tweets, it's not about what they come to say to you when they visit the county committee, and we love those visits. It's strictly about how they push the button. The top 5 bills that we scored with Conduit, I'm going to briefly go over those because I'm running out of time. Of course, the LEARNS Act, the special election reform, income tax cuts, the repeal throwback rule that reduces the tax burden on business owners, which is what we are all about. And Senate Bill 71, which is sponsored by Senator Dan Sullivan, that did not pass, but that would have ended discrimination here in Arkansas, and we need to get that bill passed. The next slide will briefly go over our honorable mentions, and if you, again, grab a scorecard, you will see all of that. You also see the bills that we opposed. And one thing that I want to say about the bills that we opposed, we saw a concerted effort, and we continue to see it today, to I guess maybe restrain our Freedom of Information Act and transparency here in Arkansas. And you guys fought really hard. I see a lot of faces who are in those committee meetings fighting for transparency and accountability and trying to hold fast to a FOIA law that we have. They are still trying to strip that away from you. You've got to stay involved. So pay attention to that one as well. And then, of course, the DEI affirmative action bill. We want to see that brought back up. So did government get bigger or smaller? This past legislative session, I'm going to leave that to you to answer. We have a long way to go, but please pick up our scorecard. We also produce a Follow the Money report. This will detail every single candidate who is in the GOP primary. You will find out how every single one of them voted. The money that was contributed to them, special interests, lobbying groups, who are the biggest players in Arkansas and who funds them. So please come pick up one of those. Our hope at Conduit, again, is of course to continue to restore our economic freedom to you all, Arkansans, by major tax cuts, real caps on government growth. We want to see required public notices published solely on state-owned websites, and then of course, we want every committee vote recorded. And then finally, if you're not following Conduit News, you should do that. We are Arkansas's #1 source for conservative news and politics. We cover all of the news that the mainstream media will not touch. We stay in touch with committees, the resolutions that you're passing, what you want to see happen, grassroots efforts. And so I would just really encourage you to follow Conduit. And then you can always make a tax-deductible gift to us. We can't do this without y'all. We're a nonprofit, and all of these resources cost money. And so even if it's a $5, $10 donation, we will certainly take it. So with that, I'm 12 minutes. Thank you so much. Please come find me in the table behind, in the very back, our scorecard and Follow the Money report. Would love to talk to you. Thank you.